Did you have animals you loved as a kid? I had this dog, Jenny, and Jenny was awesome, man. Kind of like a wolf mutt, something like that. And Jenny, we would run around outside. We'd have so much fun. Something about animals was so precious to me as a kid because I could connect to them. I could connect to animals in a way I could not connect to human beings. I loved it. I loved that dog. Spent so much of my time rummaging around and running around and throwing frisbees to that dog and kicking soccer balls, and so many good memories with Jenny. Unfortunately, one day I was on the phone talking with one of my friends, which I had, I don't know, five, six of at the time, maybe seven, eight, if that. And I walked out the front door and was trying to shut the door. And at the same time, Jenny just bolted out, saw something across the street in the road. And unfortunately, with the street I grew up on being cars moving, flat, sending it 60, 70 miles an hour, no cops in sight, Jenny didn't make it across the road. And I heard my mother call my father and say, "You better get home. You're not going to believe what your son did." And I knew that I was in for it. I knew that I was in for it. My dad at the time was working late all the time, but he spared his time to come home, and he handed me the shovel and proceeded to walk me down to where I had buried the cats as a young boy and said dig. And I just remember this incredible feeling of shame and self-loathing that came over me again as my father just stared at me while that shovel kept going into the dirt and the dirt kept flying. I think that my dad was trying to teach me a lesson, but he never let me grieve. There's no grieving in my house. No weakness. No weakness. What a terrible lesson I was taught as a person, that I can't be weak. I can't be afraid. I can't cry over the things I love dying. Not in my house, man. Not one bit. I just kept digging. And as the sweat poured down my brow and I'm wiping dirt on my head from my hands, it finally got deep enough. I knew that because my dad announced it. That's deep enough. Go ahead, put her in there. And I did. I buried her. Buried her right there. And my father and I walked up the hill in silence. I guess he was done shaming me at that point. But that shame stayed in my life for decades. That self-hatred, that feeling that everything's my fault, I'm a terrible person, and I'm a terrible son. All of that shame stayed with me for decades. Kept me in jobs that were nowhere even near where I should have been. Factory jobs, out here doing construction jobs. Not saying that that's not good work, but more saying that I was the odd man out the entire time I was there. Because as I started growing up and coming into my own, when I got out of my parents' house a couple years later, I started becoming myself. But not back here. Not back here in this memory. I don't remember saying goodbye. I don't remember feeling like I was important enough to even say goodbye. You know, I mean, it was just like on to the next thing. There's no time for grieving, no time for sadness, certainly no time for weakness. Not around my family. Then we walked back up that hill and put the shovel in the garage and pretended nothing ever happened. That was our strategy. That's how we dealt with anything, trauma related or not. Pretend it never happened. Do your best to pretend it never happened. And definitely don't ever talk about it. Definitely don't ever have opinions about it. Definitely don't ever bring it up. Not my family. I think we had a new dog in a couple of weeks, and I distinctly remember feeling like I do not want to bond with this dog because I don't know how long it's going to be here, and I don't want it to be my fault this time. I was just a kid, man. I was just a kid. Trying to survive one day at a time, and I didn't have the ability to process the sadness that I felt. I didn't know how to be sad. That was so foreign to me at that time in my life. It was back to distraction. Back to distraction. The next video game, the next TV program, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. To keep me from being me. Ultimately, I truly believe that that's what trauma and abuse does. It does everything it can do to stop you from being human. And that's certainly what it did to me. I went on like I'd knocked over some Legos or something and nobody stepped on them. Seemed like that was my life at that point. Anything I loved either died or disappeared. So I never showed any real care for anything. If I liked a shirt, gone, disappeared. I like to be around somebody, relationship dead. Mother would do something to kill it. I mean, on and on and on these things happened in my life. You know, as a grown adult here, I look back at moments like this and I just feel immense sadness for that kid that was stuck in this madness. That believed everything was his fault. That believed that he somehow could have changed these outcomes. And, you know, they call that magical thinking. That somehow I'm in control. When I'm a little kid that is not even important enough to be able to care about. What a mess. What a mess in my life. I wish I could have been truer to myself. But I wasn't taught that. I was taught to never be me, never show emotion, never have feelings. But you see, these weren't words that were spoken to me. It was all done covertly. I learned through violence who to become, so that violence was something I didn't experience. I learned through traumatic events to become a person that was unfazed by anything. And some people would call that a good thing. But I look back now and I see the missing pieces of my soul as a young boy. And as an adult, I watched for years and years of my life for that young boy to try to put the pieces together. And all he had was things that doctors would tell him, like depression and anxiety, and take these pills and this, that, and the other thing. And what I discovered throughout that was that I just needed to be able to grieve for the first time in my life. And there is no pill on the planet that'll make me be able to do that. I began to realize that I didn't want to escape depression. I wanted to embrace it. I wanted to understand, why do I feel the way that I feel? And how do I make peace with it? That's not to say that people don't need psychiatrists and stuff like that. I probably could have been convinced to do it. I just never did. Because I wanted to suffer. I wanted to experience the pain of loss and depression and anxiety and sadness. And I wanted to embrace it so that I could find me. Because I knew that who I am was lost back there somewhere. And I didn't want to be the manufactured version of myself anymore. I didn't want to be something that was created from the system that I came from. I wanted to be me. I wanted to be the unique person that I came to this earth as before all this madness and chaos hit my life. I wanted to be that child, that unique, distinct blessing on planet Earth. I wanted to be me. The me that I could never be. And my brain just couldn't reconcile, if I take XYZ whatever, that's going to get me closer to me. I just couldn't put that together. It just didn't make any sense to me. Didn't make any sense to me at all. And so I went down the rabbit hole of depression and sadness and anxiety and all the other statements that we've created to understand trauma. And I suffered. And I grieved. And at times the sadness took me over. And there's times it still does in my life. But I wouldn't trade those times for anything in the world. Because on the other side of that sadness, on the other side of that depression and anxiety, is a piece of me that was left behind. And all that sadness, depression, anxiety is trying to do is pinpoint the way to who I am. Show me the way to who I was meant to be. Memories like this seem so far away. Like looking at the stars on a beautiful night and feeling that distance. That's how far away this memory feels from who I am today. past has this way of reminding us in the present of unfinished business. And that's what this memory did for me. It showed me the path forward to myself. And I decided to crawl back into the cocoon of suffering and sadness and depression and find my way out.